Are you ready to begin this year with gratitude and grace? If so, welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. Today's episode, we talk about how having grace, compassion, and gratitude towards yourself, including your strengths and your weaknesses, is going to help benefit you in whatever goals you set in 2025. So if you're ready, listen up and lean in as we elevate your mind.
Hey,
Welcome.
do you hear the pump? I didn't even ask.
I don't hear the pump.
Oh, good.
No
Okay.
pump.
I got to figure out. I want to bring the wireless one, or not the wireless, but the cordless ones to your house when we pod. But
Yeah.
I guess the cordless ones, I have an issue with like the suction.
Mhm.
It doesn't do it enough, and so I can't figure it out. And I've tried
Do
essentially.
you want the pump showing in the video, in the video?
Yeah, I don't care. That's fine. You
Okay.
can't see my boobs
All right.
or my nipples.
Yeah. No.
And I'm pretty sure Ira saw my nipples. No, she did because I was doing I was recording for the docuseries. So I did a video with the craniofacial therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And so at one point the baby needed to feed, and she's like, "Well, feed and let's see how she latches and see if anything changes." And so like when I was doing the editing of the video, I was like, "Oh, there's my nipple. Sorry, Ira." Like,
Yeah. Oh, well.
yeah,
You know,
well,
it is what it is. We all have nipples.
Yeah.
Everyone has nipples. I don't
Yes.
understand the weirdness about nipples. The other thing I don't understand is the weirdness about picking your nose.
Why? What's weird?
Like, you teach kids like not to pick their nose, but it's like I've got something stuck in my nose. Like,
I know.
why is
Well, especially like sometimes you feel the bug and you're like, okay, I'm not going to just like have this bug in my nose.
No, I'm just gonna get it out.
Pick it.
I guess because your hands are dirty and like your nose is obviously like where germs
to your
can
brain.
get in. So yeah, but sometimes I just pick my nose. Anyway, and I have grace and gratitude towards myself because of that. Our conversation today is a bit different. You know, it's a really something that I think a lot of programs don't embrace, when it is probably one of the most important things when we are going through any sort of change, whether it's change of having a baby for the first time, change of, what I'm going through and grieving. And on, like I said earlier today in my like sadness, I said, I just want my life back. Like,
what?
Yeah. Like, I feel like my life is it's not
Been turned upside down.
Like, I don't want to work out. Like, I don't want to do anything, I'm going to cry again.
That's
You
okay.
guys are going to hear me cry a lot in the next couple weeks. So just buckle up.
People who cry together stay together.
Yes. Well, you've all been in a situation where, things just turn upside down and your world is rocked, right? Again, and that could be a positive or negative thing. That could be you completely committing to yourself this year. And that can feel like your world is being rocked because you're so used to something being a certain way, right? And it's going to feel tough and you're going to go through hard times and you're going to, and I'm going to use my situation because that's what I can use, right? And obviously the situation of our clients. But like, there are times where I have to stop myself and say, like, stop guilting yourself, right? Like, stop thinking that, it was too early or whatever it is, because that's only hurting me, right? Where I need to have that grace and compassion towards myself. And so when we do this, we are able to improve, gratitude, as we talked about in the visualization. We didn't touch on this as much, but it tells us like, it's like that. It's bad for me, but like, it's bad because you have all this gratitude for how good it was. Right. So for me, it's, helping to this gratitude and finding this practice is helping to improve my mental health, helping me be more resilient. And that obviously translates into your journey with health and wellness. So I thought that would be something beneficial to our listeners.
Well, and because the last couple of weeks and these next couple episodes, we're reflecting a lot on the year and like going forward and whatnot. But I think you would do yourself a disservice if you didn't reflect on what you were grateful for what you learned. So like today I had the calls for our clients, right? So for the group call, and one of the gals popped on and she was kind of guilting herself for what she had done the last couple weeks, or I'd say the last week rather. And so for example, what she had said is like she was eating the sweets and treats and whatnot, and she was aware, like, why am I doing this, like, while she was doing it. And so she was trying to say, I'm happy and grateful that I was able to recognize that, but then I thought, like, okay, well, I shouldn't be doing this. Like, so there's like that conflict, right, of like, I know I'm doing this, I shouldn't do it. And so I asked her, so let's go back to last year, what's different between last year and this year and you doing that? And so she talked about like the gratitude of the transformation she's had and the grace that she's given herself. And so those two words resonate when we can reflect back, but then when we can look forward, that's what brings us into a better self. So like, for example, you're feeling guilt, shame, or, you know, just what, like, indecisiveness if you did the right thing. Okay, well, I'm grateful I had the time, but then also to move forward, like, I can't keep feeling this way because it's not fair.
Well, and like in my situation, I am grateful that I and she got to experience her last breath in the way that she did. But my therapist said this, she goes, that's just, it's like an inner critic thing, right? When we want to focus on the guilt, the shame, the stuff that isn't caring for us. It's that inner critic voice of trying to make up this story. She goes, you don't know what goes on after we leave this earth, so you get to make up the story that you want.
Oh.
You know, and then I read all those books and they're like, no, this is actually what happens. And I'm like, I don't know if that's true, but I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah.
So, you know, grace and compassion and gratitude, excuse me, really, one of the things in regards to the client that you're talking about is she has to let go of that perfectionism. Like when we have that compassion and grace and gratitude, we let go of perfectionism and we are able to embrace like pivoting, flexibility, right? We're able to then use that as a way to reflect on, okay, why did we have to pivot? You know, why did we struggle in that way? Which ultimately is going to, as I think about this, when we can have that reflection and gratitude, even gratitude for the hard things, right? Gratitude for the challenges, we're able to create a roadmap for ourselves.
Yes.
Right.
There we go. That's actually a great, sorry. I mean,
you have to do that on camera.
Yes. Because if I don't want to clog duct. I think the roadmap is a great way of saying, like, I was thinking of a road of what you've driven past and what you have to drive ahead. And so where gratitude is the past, grace is the moving forward.
I love that. Yes, that's good. I love that.
Pop off.
Yeah, queen. And so let's get into it. So wins are often overlooked, right?
Yeah.
When people are going through change, because they're really focused on the end result rather than being focused on like all of the small little, I think of like a staircase. I've talked about this before, like the small little steps that got you to the top. If you guys have ever been in Arizona, there is Piestewa Peak and Camelback Mountain.
Yeah.
And those, I know it's Piestewa that has the little stairs.
Yeah.
Right? All the way up. And you could be down at the bottom and be looking up like, oh my God, that's so tough. But every time you take that step, you're closer and closer, right? And that's what small wins are. It's celebrating. Because in an effort to like continue, you have to find motivation. Motivation doesn't start. It doesn't come with wanting change. You just have to make the change and then celebrate the wins to feel a sense of gratitude, of excitement, of joy. That then motivates you to keep going.
Yeah.
But if you're like, I'm not there yet, well, guess what? You're not going to feel there yet. You're not going to want to get there yet. You're not going to do it.
Yeah. It's actually going back to that client. She's your client too.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay. So
I have two that I think it is.
Okay. Well,
Kelly or Angela?
Angela.
Okay.
Yeah. So she was saying how she had lost 40 pounds in the last, I think, 6 months or something like that. And she was like eager to lose more. And I had told her, you know, looking back, you probably didn't realize that you were losing 40 pounds cumulatively, but little by little, week by week, you had lost the pound. but now
Mhm.
you want to rush moving forward. But it took you 6 months or ish to lose that 40. So
Mhm.
why would you just drop another 10 within the short period?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, yeah. And I was like, yeah. So when we look back, the gratitude part of this allows us to look back, be thankful that for that success. So for in that client's case, she's grateful that she was successful in finally losing that weight or starting to lose the weight in a sustainable way. And
Mhm.
then able at this point with the holidays to see the setbacks that we're setting up for herself and her old behaviors that were starting to reintroduce itself, and then
Mhm.
acknowledging the process that was a different person of, okay, at least I'm acknowledging one that I'm setting myself back and I'm doing this fuck it all or nothing thinking, and then moving forward I can make these adjustments. Whereas before she would just fuck it, fine. And she literally said in the past it would be, okay, well, I'm doing these things. It all starts in January then, like my reset.
Yeah.
She goes, but now I guess she has today off. She feels like I can kind of recalibrate and prepare myself mentally for going into the holidays. Whereas before I didn't have that. I needed to wait until after. And I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Awesome. And a part of that though too is like, in her case, she was able to see her progress.
Yeah.
She's able to see, okay, I'm not there yet. And that's actually, it's so funny with this particular, it's not funny, but interesting with this particular client that even her wanting to be there already was an underlying issue we had to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Of like, I just need to figure it out. I just need to be there. I need to stop doing this. I need to da da da. We actually had a really in-depth conversation a couple months ago about this mental barrier of I just need to know it already. And like that whole have the confidence, know what I'm doing, be an expert in this thing that I haven't done the right way ever.
Mm-hmm.
And so that actually provided us even more in-depth understanding of her reality, right?
Yeah.
Her thoughts, her feelings, her wants, and her needs. And so the other part of that though too is now she can say, okay, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm doing, I'm trying to, my mindset is falling back on you should know this, you should know this, so instead I'm going to talk more compassionately towards myself, right?
Yes.
And see this as trial and error, because before it was all error.
Yeah.
Because
Trial,
we were trying,
bad, no more.
what was that?
Like trial, bad, then no more. Like I just
Right,
won't do it
exactly.
anymore. There will be no
Yeah.
more trials.
Yeah. And it was just like, okay, I'm done. Right. But now she can speak compassionately to herself. And I think of a baby when they're trying to learn how to walk. You're not like, you fucking idiot. You can't walk yet? Like, no. I mean, a kid learning anything, you're not telling them, like, you're an idiot for not being able to walk right away.
Right.
And when they fall down, you're like, okay, it's okay. Get back up.
Right.
Right. That's where that stupid saying comes from. I was like, you fall down, like brush yourself off, get back up again, whatever it is. You would not talk to anyone learning. And for her specifically, if she's listening, she is a teacher. So, like she teaches children, and she, it wouldn't be like, okay, you don't know this foreign language yet in the 6 months that you're learning it.
And I think that's so contrary to the fitness world, though, is like, they're like, well, you didn't do it right then.
Right.
Like her whole messaging, or our whole messaging rather, has been, you didn't do it right. You didn't do it perfectly. Like you would have had that if you would have just met these like standards or these check boxes. And so they don't allow you to see, like maybe the progress was you going for the walk instead of, doing the 20-minute exercise every day that they program for you. And so, but since you didn't do it, that's wrong. And so what we try and do is teach this gratitude and grace moving forward with the self-compassion. And it's hard. I would almost say that's harder because there isn't, and I told the girls on the call, like we live in the gray zone with our clients, but a lot of our clients come from black and white, whether that's all or nothing thinking or perfectionism or anything like that. And when you're not meeting the like black and white standards, then it's wrong. There's your trial. You already had the error. Then I just don't do it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard when diet culture, as you're saying, like really creates that environment, that black or white, it's this or that. And that has kept people sick. It's kept people in bodies that they hate. It's kept people from creating lifestyles that serve them and their health. And so when you are compassionate towards yourself and have gratitude for your trials and errors, you actually are saying fuck you to the culture that created your insecurities.
Yeah.
You know, you're like looking at the bully and being like, no, like you don't get to talk to me that way anymore. I choose how to talk to myself.
Right.
It is not my critic. It is not, you know, society telling me how I should think or feel. I decide what the fuck I'm going to think or feel, you know? So good. You know, gratitude, as I mentioned, is so transformative. And I've said it here before, where when I was in a very negative mindset, right? I didn't realize how much control I had over that, where I was thinking about everything I didn't have, what I didn't look like, the partners that didn't want me, and how everyone else got things, but I didn't. And I just kept getting more of that because that's what I was focusing on.
Yeah.
When I sat down each day and wrote a gratitude practice, I realized like, oh my God, I'm gonna cry because I think of Brookie, because we did that. You know, she was a big part of that.
That's what I was looking at. I was like, I'm going to pull up my gratitude journal and see what I wrote today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's find mine. This is mine from when we started.
Yeah. I had 5 years ago. I was just happy that I could wake up and stretch.
Oh, look at that.
I know. Like, see, and I put these so simple, but then I look back and I'm like, oh, that's nice. You know, because I think a lot of people think like, I got up this morning, all I could do was stretch, right? But or I could think like, oh, I'm so glad at least I got it in the time to stretch. And so when you see it, you know, 5 years later on a stupid app that you've been doing, it's kind of like, oh, well, that's good. Good for me. Like I got up and stretched.
Yeah. I just have all of these different things. Oh, 9915. So grateful for don't hold other people's poop.
Oh, there you go.
I didn't write that book till 2020.
Huh.
I know. I interrupt this episode to bring you our December promo, and this is our introductory offer on the Mindset Method Movement, our revamped group coaching program. This program is unlike any other group coaching program out on the market and is going to be priced so competitively because we want everyone to take advantage of this. In our program, you will begin working from the inside out on your relationship with your body, food, and self-worth through the Mindset Method curriculum. In my Mindset of Matter app, every Monday, you will receive a reflection that will help you work through why you struggle with control over food, why your food noise is so loud, why you hate the image you see in the mirror. Then from there, you get to take the information that you've learned and bring it to one of 2 coaching calls per week. Yes, per week. And for those who sign up now, you'll be working directly with me. So you get to process all of that stuff with yours truly. You'll also get access to our on-demand training program that includes gym, at-home, time crunch, body weight, and core workouts that change every single month and all build on each other to basically create the body of your dreams. You will get custom nutrition coaching from one of my expert coaches, depending on your specific needs, whether that's autoimmune issues, peri-post-menopause, prenatal or postnatal, or general nutrition. We have someone here at the Mindset It Matter for you. And last but not least, you will have access to an amazing community of like-minded individuals who are looking to do something different in regards to changing their relationship with themselves mentally and physically. And for this introductory offer, we are offering our group coaching program for $275 a month with a 30-day cancellation notice. This is literally the same price that other coaching programs charge just for nutrition coaching. And if you sign up in December, you will be moved right into our Winter Wellness Challenge. You're going to jump right in, and we're going to do that at no additional cost. So you can start working with us today at no additional costs. So if you're ready to change your relationship with yourself through your mindset, through your movement, through your nutrition, check out the show notes below for more information. Now, back to the show. I wrote intentions.
Uh-huh.
Let's see, there's goals. Gratitude. There we go. Oh my God.
Brooke?
Gratitude list. Mark, Brooklyn,
Aww.
family, career, clients, car, decor, clothes, intellect, health. And
There you go.
then I
So
have
where there's our Brewster
girlfriend.
resilience, right?
Yeah. There's so many things in here. Anyways, that idea of everyone has something to be grateful for, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're grateful that if you're listening to this podcast right now with headphones, you're actually doing a lot better than a majority of people in this world. To be able to be open to the information, to have a phone that streams this podcast, to have ears to listen to it, to have eyes to find it, vision, right? To be alive, right?
Mm-hmm.
To so many things. I mean, we take for granted what we have, and that in itself can create a lot of depression and anxiety, whereas gratitude improves mental health. It boosts your resilience and it enhances your well-being. I'll tell you, in this grief cycle, gratitude, and I said it this way, is like, I talked to my girlfriend Sarah, and she had told me that I'd asked her, because you and I talked about this yesterday, but she, to share with everyone, she had a dog that she got in her like mid to late 20s and had until her 40s, exactly how I was with Brooklyn. And I had asked her, I go, do you love your dogs, your new, like her new puppies, the same as him? And she said, no, he was my baby. It was different. And, in my brain, I was going to that negative place. I'm never going to have this again. I'm so sad. What am I going to do? And I had to reframe that to gratitude of, I got to experience this love, unconditional love from this being for 15 years, and most people don't get that in their lifetime.
No.
And that gives me a lot of gratitude. And that's like our love, our connection is ours, and to feel gratitude for that. And that helped me that night. It helped me with feeling better that evening.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't stay for me right now, but I'm trying to constantly come back to it because it does help my overall well-being in this time.
Well, let me plot twist that and put it to the nutrition and fitness aspect and say, so what you're doing is looking at the small like opportunities, the small wins of it, right? So like Sarah sharing that isn't like this mind-blowing thing that makes it all feel better, right? And so equating that to fitness and nutrition is to say like celebrating the small wins doesn't make everything that you've done to get to this point better or moving forward. It doesn't all make it easier, but it compounds that. So for example, going back to the client we were discussing is just the awareness of when she's indulging in these treats a little bit more than she would like that's a small win. Now, did she immediately stop and go, oh my gosh? No. She was working out and, thought, because I guess she hadn't the past couple of weeks because of the schedule and whatnot. So celebrating that she was taking the time to work out and celebrating that she was preparing herself to go into the holidays and whatnot. So again, it's going into it, looking back and seeing like these smaller wins and having gratitude for that rather than this big thing. And then like you're saying, and you had said with Brooklyn is you're feeling guilty, but you reframe that of like talking to yourself about it of like, this isn't helping. I don't need to feel guilt. This is why I did what I did. This is the XYZ. And then these are, the circumstances and instances that I'm taking in and changing how I'm perceiving this story.
Yeah.
So same thing can happen with fitness and nutrition too.
Well, and I want listeners, because obviously this is where I'm at. I think, and I appreciate you reframing it to what they need, but like, this is the hard thing for me. Right. Like, and the nutrition and health right now is the hard thing for them.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, it is, I'm going to, I'm going to continue to use it as my example because it seems impossible for me right now,
Mm-hmm.
which for a lot of people, like
It is impossible.
it feels impossible to them
Mm-hmm.
to change their health and wellness. Right.
Yeah.
And so, finding those small wins and reframing the setbacks or the negative thinking or the behavior even, right? The behavior, like the shame spirals, even the binges themselves, right? For me, it's the guilt cycle, right? And all this crazy shit my brain is doing. And one thing to practice, and one thing that I have done is I've written in my notes a couple of things. I write to Brookie, gratitude towards her.
Yeah.
But for you, writing down like what you are grateful for in your health, wellness, fitness journey over this past year.
Yes.
So 2024 year.
Yeah.
What is it that you did well, that you enjoyed, or that you learned from?
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't just happen overnight. We've got to go through the shit and looking at, as we're saying, every single one of those, what you would call a failure,
Mm-hmm.
as an opportunity to learn. Right.
Yeah. And I would say almost even the learning part that you asked, like, what did you learn from? What did you do well is a great question, but what did you learn is going to give you a lot more insight too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it depends on how they answer that question. Because we could say, I learned, how to treat my body well by going for walks, right? That's a great thing. Or like sometimes, and hopefully they're probably not listening to this podcast, but they're going to say, I learned that I just can't do 5 days a week. Like there's a negative connotation to that. Like I just can't, instead of saying I learned. So flip side of that is I learned 2 days a week of working out is optimal for me. Right. So it's not what you learned that you can't do. It's what you learned that you did do and that works for you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think also looking and reflecting on who supported that is going to help you, because you're going to want to gravitate towards that more often too. So maybe it was like a friend that inspired you, or maybe like, remember you get your random girl gym crushes, like seeing them inspires you. And so it's focusing on who's going to help lead you to find what is working in your circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. So we want you guys to first and foremost look at 2024. We want you to write down the small wins you've had along the journey, even if you are not even close to where you want to be. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that you found this fucking podcast and you decided, okay, I need to start with my mindset. Write those down. What's the one thing that you're proud of in your fitness and health journey? And then who supported you in your growth in 2024?
Yep.
Now we want to embrace grace upon and during reflection, right? So what does it mean? What we're talking about to have grace on yourself, again, is letting go of that perfectionism, being able to say like this process, especially if you've done the reflection from this past year, right? This process is not linear. The process is difficult. It's going to have its detours. Again, think of it as a roadmap.
Yeah.
It's going to have detours. We're going to have construction. We're going to have straight up traffic in this shit. And understanding that those things are going to happen. They most of the time are maybe mistakes we've made, challenges that we've had. And so if we've already done the reflection on the past year, we can then have grace towards ourselves when those things are happening now. Right. Of like, okay, I've been here before. Last time I was here, I did this. And because I reflected on it and had gratitude for that opportunity, right? It's not a failure. It's an opportunity to learn. I learned I should do this instead. So then you try that instead in the moment.
So you're essentially reassessing goals and reassessing kind of task, I would say.
You're reassessing your approach to these difficult situations rather than shitting on yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Rather than just being like, you're fucking stupid, whatever it is that your inner critic wants to say.
Right.
You're saying, we've been here before. We knew that this is a challenge. I know this is a struggle for me. We got it. We learned last time, for me, again, just use myself, that when I can focus on, the relationship with my dog, it makes me feel better.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that again right now. Or maybe that didn't work last time and I need to do something different. Then I'm going to do that right now. And that's really that conscious, like, competence. I'm consciously using what I reflected on, what I've learned, to now put that into play and or a better version of that into play right now, which is having grace on yourself. You are showing yourself grace to say, we're here. We're at the hard place. And we can get out of this without treating ourselves negatively.
Yeah. Well, and I think when you take yourself out of the hard place and then reassess everything too, and say, then what do I need to change? Like, do I need to change the goal or do I need to change the process?
Yep.
Because sometimes you have the process, but the goal doesn't match your reality, and vice versa. The goal doesn't match the processes. So,
Right.
for example, I want to lose 40 pounds. Well, I'm not eating in a caloric deficit. Well, the process would be to eat in a caloric deficit. And then being honest and saying, like, do I really have the capacity to be eating in a caloric deficit right now, especially during the holidays? So we're saying that with the intention of not only when we're reassessing with this grace and gratitude, but we're talking about realistic expectations and sustainable changes too. So, for example, one of the other gals on the call, she has more of like, I identify more with her of like her history of exercise and being obsessive compulsive about it, and like really like timely, and like, if I'm going to work out on Monday, I'm going to work out on Monday. And it's like, well, what happens if you don't, and then that fear of coming in, and you're having to adjust the expectations without guilt, because it was like, if she didn't work out today, it was going to send her in a tizzy. But what about not working out today was bad, right? And she's like, well, I could work out tomorrow though. And I'm like, okay. So you not working out today isn't a failure. We're just working out tomorrow because you've got too many things today that are on your plate. So thinking of everything of kind of self-compassion coming from this place of flexibility.
Absolutely. I interrupt this episode to invite you to our absolutely free webinar, Food and Body Reset for 2025. This webinar will be on December 30th at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I'm basically going to walk you through a mini version of the mindset method where you can walk away understanding the underlying mental health, psychological struggles that you have, those patterns that keep you from achieving whatever goals you want to set out for yourself, but also walk you through how we create our norms. And I'm going to give away some free gifts at the end that's going to make this process easier for you. This will also be featured on our podcast. So you get to be on the podcast if you do attend. I'd love for our listeners, for your friends, family, anyone who you feel would benefit from this opportunity to receive free coaching from me to attend. So check out the show notes below for the link where you can sign up. Again, this is completely free. It will be featured on the podcast as an episode, so you can actually be on our podcast if you'd like. So that again is December 30th at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, back to the show. When we're approaching ourselves with grace, we're not looking at, I didn't work out today as a failure, right? You're looking at it as, how can I be consistent, right? How can I readjust, be consistent, right? So again, maybe I didn't work out today. Usually I need to work out on Mondays. My mind was very rigid that I need to work out on Mondays. And if I didn't, I was a failure. The grace is, hey, I've got 6 more days to get my workouts in. And today is not that day, right? And I am okay with that. I have grace and gratitude towards myself, and then of course, with the holidays specifically is like, people will be like, well, I had this, one meal that's like, was totally off the rails, all the words that people use, and being able to say, okay, like that was a meal that one of the things I love when we are practicing grace with our clients is like, did you intend to do that? Like, did you go in it? Like, you can intend to go off the rails, guys.
Well, I always ask them, but like, was it good? Like, did you enjoy it? And they're like, oh yeah, it was so good. I'm like, okay, then like that's not.
And I want to edit that a bit, because was it good and you felt good afterwards?
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between it being good and then you feel like absolute dog shit afterwards, right? And that's where that can become more of like a binge cycle. But if I talk about Steak 44. We intend to eat over. We went to Maple and Ash for brunch with our friends.
Can't
We had, I probably didn't eat enough. I actually brought filet mignon back for Harlem. She still has some. I gotta feed her the rest. But we shared plates, and we had a seafood tower that they came with a pasta back, dude. You put the pasta in the seafood tower sauce. It was so good.
Okay, I got a request for you. When
What?
I figure out how to pump and dump, let's go
going
to
out?
Maple and Ash for brunch.
Okay. We should do the I don't give a fuck. It's $175, but you get like all of this stuff, and it
That's
includes drinks.
Yeah.
Yeah. it's
Like,
good
let me
stuff.
figure out how to pump and dump, and let's just go for
Yeah.
it.
Perfect.
Okay.
Deal. So instead of, again, one meal doesn't define your progress, you just say, I enjoyed that. Or maybe you didn't. Maybe you are the person who's like, I felt terrible after that. Okay. Having that grace instead of what your inner critic wants to do is like, you're stupid, you're an idiot, you're a failure. That grace part of you says, okay, that was a struggle. I'm going to reach out to my coach, or I'm going to write down like what happened and try to reassess what it might look like, because you're going to have Christmas Eve dinner. You're going to have Christmas dinner. We're going to have a New Year's party. We're going to still have all these things coming up and opportunities to learn from that mistake. So again, first we reflect on the past year. What are our small wins? What are the opportunities for growth, and what have we learned? Then we take that into consideration now. How can we have grace towards ourselves? How can we look at things from, what did I learn from the past, and how can I put it into play right now? Right? How can I make that adjustment? And then once we go through the thing, the dinner, the party, the missed workout, how can we then continue that gratitude and grace after the fact, right? We've kind of talked about the reflection. Now let's just give you some actionable steps. You've already got a few of them with this kind of end of year reflection, ready for 2025. So first thing, as we already talked about, we're going to identify 3 areas to be grateful for in your fitness, nutrition, and mindset. So mine are going to be, my mindset right now is my ability to come back to my gratitude and reflect on all of the positive things. I am grateful to start hopefully getting my appetite back, because right now it's null and void.
Yeah.
And fitness wise, being able to give myself grace that I can't. My body literally is like numb. So instead I'm able to go on walks with Harlem, which brings me a lot of joy because it brings her a lot of joy. And in that moment, I am at peace. So those are my 3 things right now for what I'm going through. What are yours?
Mine for right now, 3 things I'm grateful for in my fitness. I would say the ability to have like a home gym and work out at my convenience, or like when I can real quick. Because it's been challenging, like where I can't, like I'm doing a 15-minute program and I'm just doing it like that I only have to do 2 exercises is a lot more achievable than a 40-minute thing.
Oh yeah.
So I'm grateful that I have a home gym that I can just walk in and do something and then come back in if I need to. Nutrition wise, I'm grateful that I'm not losing my mind, not counting calories right now. And that nutrition wise, like I'm still having the same stuff too. Like I didn't, because I think sometimes with clients, they'll fear like they want to not track anymore, but it's like, if I don't track, I'm going to go off the rails.
Right.
And I'm testament to, you probably won't, because if your foundation is mostly whole foods, then you're probably going to keep up with it, because it's just like a habit and a behavior at this point. Mindset wise, I'm trying to work on, well, I guess that would be like a growth opportunity. So what am I grateful for mindset wise? Mindset wise, I'm grateful for that. Like I have felt relatively like neutral postpartum. Like I didn't have a big, I didn't get a bunch of anxiety that I thought I was. I am grateful that I didn't get postpartum depression. I'm grateful that I didn't get like postpartum OCD or something like that. It's been relatively stable mentally for me. So like as far as the area, yeah. Because I honestly, like one of the reasons we have Brooke, and when I was meeting with her, I was like, you're going to have to help me, like not go crazy. And right now I'm like, well, she's more so helping me with the baby so I could do this. So, but like in a growth, an area I'd like to grow into is just,
which is our next step.
Sorry, our next step is growing. What would you like to do for an area to grow into in the new year? For me, that's more like confidence in doing what I feel is right, as opposed to trying to take in a bunch of different opinions and deciding from there and then getting conflicted with myself.
Yeah. I think my area of growth right now is just healing and my grief right now. Like it really is like top of mind. I obviously have areas of growth for the business. It's kind of weird to feel like I haven't done anything business wise in like almost a week.
I was gonna say a week.
Yeah. Amanda took over. Thank you, Amanda. There's my gratitude for you. But finding that one area you'd like to grow in, because sometimes for you guys, your area of growth isn't diet or exercise. It's the mindset that keeps you from being consistent with the diet and exercise. So we want to grow mentally, which ultimately will allow us to not grow physically, but grow in our health and wellness, whatever our goals are. We have to, when we're looking at the area of growth, like what is going to move the needle? Yeah. You've been on diets, you've done exercise. Your growth needs to be in the place that what we're not doing, what we've been avoiding, if we want to see that area, looking for the most bang for your buck in regards to that one area of growth.
Right.
Mine right now is I've got to get through this. Like that is the bang for my buck. So right. Back to normal. And then setting one small attainable goal for January that aligns with your values. All right. One goal, not I'm going to do all the workouts and do this and do that. Again, if you guys need to listen to our episode on like what, not to do when you come into 2025 in regards to like a program or workouts, like doing too much, that doesn't work for you. So just set one goal. What's your goal? Do you have one?
I was thinking of becoming more confident of raising a daughter.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
My goal is to continue to set boundaries with my time, which this kind of provided that for me. That's another thing with gratitude that I touched on in the manifesting visualization episode of, I said it on the episode we had, the last episode of, I read 2 books, and I've said on this podcast how many times I've like read a book halfway and like didn't finish it. And now I know I can sit and read a book.
Yes.
Whereas my brain before was like, no, you couldn't, know? And so this situation of mourning has allowed me to see, oh, look at you can read books, right? And so anyways, setting that one goal, and that could be, I am going to work out for 20 minutes a day for 3 days a week at my home with bands. Then in February, if I do that 80% of the time, I'm going to then buy myself some adjustable dumbbells, and then I'll move it up. And then in March, now we're adjustable dumbbelling. Oh, now I'm going to maybe get a gym membership because now I'm so consistent with it. Then by summertime, babe, you will have a whole workout routine. You're going to feel great. You're going to feel stronger. Maybe you're seeing body composition changes. Like, awesome. Whereas if you don't do this one at a time, you're going to fizzle out by January 21st. And by summertime, you're going to probably have stayed the same or maybe even gone the opposite direction of where you want to be. So one small goal.
So it's interesting that you laid it out like that, because I think for the goals is that, and even goals and reflections will say in present moment, we need to have like a pause, whether that's a weekly pause or a monthly pause, and kind of just check in and make sure that everything's aligning. So we talked about, do the processes meet the expectations and the goal? Because if they don't, then we need to change that. And I think a lot of people, they get lost in that, the expectation and the goal and the processes not meeting. And they don't realize it until like a month later of like, oh, fuck, whatever. Like, fuck it. I've already been fucking up.
Right.
And
Right.
really when we're having like, if we're doing like a weekly or a monthly check-in or even a daily check-in, like, so for me, my daily check-in of gratitude is like, I have this app, right? And so whether that's scheduling it or whatnot, but just making sure that you're staying on track with what you're trying to do, because again, the people who are listening to this podcast are probably more willing to work on self-improvement and just progress within themselves. But we got to make sure that you have scheduled time to do that with yourself, not just assuming it's going to happen over time.
Yeah. All right. The other thing is connecting with a community of people who are going to help you feel gratitude, to help celebrate those wins, to be there to almost be the grace that you need and remind you that grace is important. We have our Facebook group, which is the Women's Weight Loss and Workout Support Group on Facebook. We also have our group coaching Mindset Method Movement, which will be starting in January 2025. We're having a coach in our one-to-one tailored support program that is literally probably the first person to really create the space for you around these struggles without judgment, without telling you what you need to or what you want to hear, but rather telling you what you need to hear in an effort to create change, but also demonstrating to you what compassion, grace, and gratitude looks like in the form of supported person. Because for some of you, this may be the first time that you've had that in your life where there is no expectation, judgment, bias, just pure love and support. And so community is huge in this. So good. Anything else?
I would say to add on the community part is like community of people who are in the same or like the mental space where you want to be in. I'll rephrase that, right? Because you can easily join a community, like a Facebook group will say, that everybody's kind of sharing
what they can't do.
Yeah, what they can't do, or kind of like dysmorphic habits. Is dysmorphic a word? Dysmorphia habits, I don't know. Yeah, like just like if everybody is in there talking about how they lost 60 pounds in 2 weeks or something like that, like that's going to be really triggering for you, especially if you're not achieving that in 2 weeks, right? So I think it's important you surround yourself with somebody, like a group that you don't feel like anxious to go with, or like a coach that you don't feel nervous to tell or embarrassed to tell. Like initially you're going to, because you're learning each other. But if you can always feel like you can come to them, then that's the community that you want to cultivate instead of just the same community that you tend to fall in. Yeah.
You should feel guilt or shame. Awesome. No, I think that's great. It's a great point. So good. Well, if you guys are interested in learning more about our communities, check the show notes below for the Mindset Method Movement, which is our group coaching program, or you can set up a clarity call with one of us to discuss our one-to-one coaching program. Or if you'd like to kind of see what that type of community would look like, we have a webinar that I will be running on December 30th at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. This webinar is going to walk you through a mini version of the Mindset Method, allow for coaching, and to set you up with a plan for 2025 using our method. And it will be people who listen to this podcast, current members of our community, and potential members of our community. So if you are interested in that, it's completely free. Check out the show notes to sign up. Please give us a follow, like, share, subscribe, rate this motherfucker. Show us some grace and gratitude by giving us a review. We'd love that for us. Give us a follow on social media, Mindset Matter Coaching or fitbymanda.az. And the highest sense of gratitude, it comes from your mindset. So we want you to remember this one last thing.
What you say in the mind,
you see in the mirror. Goodbye.